listening to someone and being able to say, that was me a little bit, or that is me right now. Wait, they did it? Because if you can see yourself in just one of the stories, then you go, oh, they did it. I think I can do it too. And that's storytelling is the most powerful way to get messages across.
Welcome to Season of Stuck, the podcast that takes a deep dive into the all too human experience of feeling stuck. I'm your host, Deanna, deBara, and on this podcast, we explore all things stuck. How and why stuckness happens, what it feels like, how to learn and grow from it, and ultimately, how to get unstuck and move forward in an authentic, empowered way. If you are looking for insights, support, and community as you make your journey from stuck to unstuck, you're in the right place. Now, let's jump into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Season of Stuck. I am your host, Deanna. If this is your first time listening, welcome. And if this is not your first time listening, welcome back. Wherever you are in your journey from stuck to unstuck, I'm just so happy that you're here and so grateful that I get to be a part of that journey. So, thank you for tuning in. Before we get started, I just want to highlight the obvious. I am feeling a little bit under the weather, so if my voice sounds a little bit different this week, I apologize. I am eating all of the cough drops, taking all of the medicine, and my hope is that by the next time that I record, I am sounding back to my normal self. So, again, please ignore the croakiness and overall sick vibe of my voice today. So, clearly, considering the fact that you're listening to it right now, you know that I am a podcast creator. But long before I ever had the idea to start a podcast, I have been a podcast listener and an enthusiast. I truly love the medium of podcasting, and podcasts are the perfect accompaniment to so many activities in my life. If I am driving or cleaning or organizing my closet or going for a walk or working out, there is a 99% chance that I am doing those things while also listening to a podcast. I call it podcast and. And one of the coolest parts of now being a podcast creator is that I sometimes get the opportunity to connect with other creators that are making shows that I, as a podcast listener and enthusiast, absolutely love. And that is the case with today's guests. Today, we're chatting with Kelly Guenther and Dr. Keri Ohlrich, hosts of the Breakout podcast, a show that shares powerful stories of transformation. Stories that remind us that we all have the ability to create change in our lives, even when it feels hard or scary. And that change is ultimately what helps us live our most authentic, courageous lives. In addition to the podcast, Kelly and Keri recently published a book called Whatever the Hell You Want, which offers guidance and insights for how to make the move from where you are to where you want to be. They're also change experts, talent specialists, founders of the HR consultancy Abbracci Group. They are busy. And in addition to their professional endeavors, Keri and Kelly are also best friends that have supported each other through major life changes and transitions, including supporting each other when they felt stuck. Again, I absolutely love the Breakout podcast. They are all about breaking through the expectations of who we should be to live a life that aligns with who we actually want to be and truly feel that we are. And not only do I love the show, but getting unstuck is a big part of the growth and change they explore on the Breakout. So, having Kelly and Keri on the show to talk about all things stuck felt like an absolute no-brainer. And let me just say, I loved this chat so much. During our conversation, Keri, Kelly, and I talk about what it means to be stuck, share our personal experiences with stuckness, and explore how moving from stuck to unstuck can change ourselves and our lives and help us step into more authentic, courageous versions of both. Kelly and Keri also share practical insights for getting unstuck. including how to quiet the what if spiral of overthinking that keeps so many of us stuck in our heads and our thoughts, why taking small and sometimes messy steps forward is better than waiting until we have it all figured out, and how humor can help us tap into our creativity and identify new options and choices and get unstuck in the process. Again, I really enjoyed this conversation. It was such a good reminder that getting unstuck isn't about huge, sweeping change. It's about the small steps we take every day, steps that will eventually take us from where we are to where we want to go, and from stuck to unstuck. Let's jump into my conversation with Kelly and Keri. And if you want to hear more from them, make sure to subscribe to The Breakout on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Kelly, Keri, welcome to Season of Stuck. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. We're so excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
I am so excited to have you here. I am a big fan of your podcast, The Breakout. So I know that you guys take a deep dive into a lot of topics and concepts and themes that are related to personal growth. So I'm excited to hear about that experience and kind of what you've learned about what it means to be stuck and how to get unstuck along the way.
That sounds great.
So, I guess to kick things off, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about your work and your podcast.
Oh my gosh. Kelly, you want to go?
Sure.
Kelly was about to say something. Let's do it.
So, hello, I'm Kelly Guenther. I'm one half of Abbracci Group. Keri is my business partner, best friend, and we started our company in 2017. We're a boutique consulting firm specializing in HR, but we also do change management, talent development, organizational development, anything within the human space. We basically take care of it. The exception would be like benefits, recruiting, but even then, we're good at that too. So, we started our company, like I said, in 2017, and from that, we created also the Breakout podcast, which, as you mentioned, is something that is a favorite of yours. And it's a favorite of ours, too, for a variety of reasons. One is because we love the stories that we hear from our guests, truly empowering, uplifting, and really shows that you can do pretty much anything you want when you have the right set of conditions. And so we'll talk about those, I imagine, later. And then we just recently relaunched a book called Whatever the Hell You Want. And so that book is all about really like the breakout, figuring out what it is that you want in your life that maybe you don't have right now. And then we have a nice change formula, if you will, called Break that really walks you through the steps of what it would mean to kind of change where you are to where you want to be.
So essentially, that is a formula for change, but it's also a formula for navigating stuckness because the way that we define stuckness is this kind of inertia that happens when who you used to be isn't a fit anymore, but like who you're going to be hasn't fully emerged. And you get stuck in that in between place. And it can be really hard to know not only how to move forward, but what you want to move forward to. So it sounds like a lot of your work is dedicated to helping people figure out okay, this is where you are. Where exactly do you want to go? And what do you need to do in order to get there?
Yeah.
Very well said.
Yes. And I think, Kelly, when you were giving our intro, I thought so much of our careers being in human resources and talent is helping people, Deanna, like you said, kind of figure out why they're doing something, why they're stuck. Either it could be performance, it could be as a leader. Why do I keep hiring the wrong people? Or why do I keep not being able to promote my people? Or whatever that question is. And we've had so many career discussions with people. And I think that's what led us to our work with the breakout and then the book. And you would have these people come in, and by all accounts, they would seem like they were successful, like they're on the fast track and they're doing things that society tells us they're supposed to do. And they would come into our offices and just be like, ugh, I don't like this. I don't want this. Well, why? Oh, because my dad said I should have this career, or my mom said I should have this career, or something like that. And so we've seen so many people in different ways just keep doing things that maybe just feel automatic, but they don't really want to do them. To your point about being stuck, we're just stuck in it. And we've seen so much of that over our careers. I think we wanted to help people break out of that. We've done it, and we want other people to be able to do it as well.
You bring up a hypothesis that I have about stuckness, which is that in my experience and having these conversations, in my own personal experiences with stuckness and the stories that I've heard from other people, it's often the people that seem and objectively are the most successful that
Mhm.
experience the most seasons of stuck, because stuckness, like that feeling of, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, but I don't know what to do next. That is a universal human
Mhm.
feeling. We all find ourselves there at one point or another, but not everyone does the work to navigate that and figure out what comes next. Because if you work with it, stuck is just a step, and it is a step that precedes a period of major growth. So, people who are often stuck and then work through that stuckness are often the most successful because they're continually evolving and growing. And when
Yes.
something is no longer a fit, they shed it and step into the next version of themselves.
Yes. But think of how, as you said that, Deanna, I'm like, yeah, you do it. But when you think about people who are really stuck, so say I'm stuck because I'm stuck in a bad relationship, which I was, you don't see a way out. So I'm stuck because I just don't even know that something better exists, that I don't know how to get out. Now, I could also be stuck because I have so much, like you said, but then I have so much. And so to give that up, oh, I have this house and I have this car and I have the prestige. And everyone thinks, oh, you're a lawyer, you've made it. And then I have to let that go. So it's still so much fear on letting that go and shedding it. And what does that do to relationships? What does that do to my self esteem if I've always said I'm a successful vice president and I have to leave that? What does that do? What does it mean when I get to break out of a bad relationship and now I still have to realize, why was I in it to begin with? Uh-oh. And I still have to do the self-awareness work and look at myself. There's a lot of fear with unsticking yourself. I don't even think that's a proper term, Deanna, but yes, you're going to unstick yourself.
No, you nailed it. And it is really scary. I think that change is inherently scary. I'll use myself as an example. So I was stuck in addiction for about 6 years. I had an alcohol use disorder when I was in my late teens and early 20s. And it was the most stuck that I have ever been. It's been almost 15 years since I've had a drink. But when I stopped drinking, there was this idea that I had that, okay, once I stop drinking, everything is going to be better, right? Like that's what's
Right.
keeping me stuck. And once I
Yes.
stop drinking, then my life is going to be perfect. And reality check, that is not what happened. Once I stopped drinking, I then put myself in a better position to make the changes that I needed to make to build a life that I was excited about. But I really appreciate you highlighting that, because change is a process. It can be a scary one. It can also
Yeah.
be a fulfilling one, but it's important to acknowledge like how hard it can feel to
Yes.
feel stuck and how hard it can be to take that first step towards getting unstuck.
Yeah. It's so scary, and I think of what Kelly and I have gone through and all the change, and it's very easy to come on a podcast and be like, "Yeah, and so we moved out to California, and then we started our business, and we have a podcast. Oh my god, it's so great." And I looking right at my buddy Kelly, who she does not like change. She really doesn't like it. I mean, we've done assessments to show how much I love it and how much Kelly hates it. So I'm not saying this as like just a little cute story. No, we've done assessments. So Kelly, you are such a good example of people who don't like change, but you do it, how hard it is and how happy you are when you come out on the other side.
Absolutely. And congratulations, Deanna, on your sobriety. I know
Thank
that's not
you.
a small feat at all. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I think that shows too, when you do make the decision, whether it's to move across the country, to live a life of sobriety, whatever that change is, when you have a clearer head and you have a line of sight as to what you want, things start becoming easier in terms of discerning what you want and what you don't want, if that makes sense. So, if I want to move, I know the steps that I want to take. I need to find a realtor if I'm selling my house, or I need to go and do a site tour to find an apartment or whatever it is. But you also surround yourself with people who are going to advocate for your behalf and be that support system when you have days when you're questioning it, which is often why I lean on Keri so much, is because she's been my cheerleader for the last 15 years of my life and was my greatest cheerleader in my career. So when you have those people that are your support system, when you have those times you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. What was I thinking? It's just easier to pick up the drink or to just stay in Wisconsin because I have a career and a family, and what am I doing? I could lose it all. But when you have people around you who are advocating and truly being that great board of directors, helping steer you in the right direction and say, no, you've got this, it makes a huge difference.
100%. Like the path towards getting unstuck is one that like we have to walk ourselves. But man, is it helpful to have someone walking alongside us. The
Yes.
power of community. I often say the greatest gift that we could ever receive would be to see ourselves through the eyes of the people that love us.
Absolutely.
And in those moments when we're struggling with self doubt, can I actually do this? Am I being crazy? Is this a crazy decision to make to shed this last version of myself and try something new? To have somebody in your corner to remind you of your competence, of your brilliance, of your ability to do new and scary things, absolutely invaluable. And I love that you have that in each other. And you've not only been a support system, but you've built this entire beautiful business and podcast and community through supporting each other.
Yeah. Kelly says I've been her cheerleader. She's been my cheerleader. And I don't think we could have done this without each other. But I think part of being that trying to get unstuck is what's helped me is there's a image of what could be in the future. So I can kind of hook my hope on that. Like, this isn't working for me. I'm not healthy right now, or I'm sad or something. I tune into this. Oh, this doesn't feel good. And if I can think, oh my goodness, if I can get through this, I can be healthier and happier and have better relationships, that can help me push through when it is really tough. And you know, Deanna, from I'm sure you've lost friends when you became sober. When I like ditched the abusive relationship, I lost friends as well because there's a whole ecosystem that you have to remember that kind of wants you to stay the way you are. It really does. And so you have to break through that, and you might lose some relationships because of that.
Mm.
This is the hard stuff. People want everything to be, well, just be quiet. It's good enough. And don't upset the apple cart. And that is tough. That is really tough. And sometimes people like Kelly's family did an amazing job, I think, of first not really understanding her move and being pretty down about it to now just loving it and moving through. Not everyone does that. Not all family members or friends are that supportive, but that's what also makes it so hard.
Absolutely. And when you were talking, it reminded me of this analogy that came up quite a bit when I stopped drinking, but I think is really applicable to this idea of like getting unstuck and making any big changes, which is like thinking of ourselves as a puzzle piece, right? And when we go through a period of major change and growth, the shape of that puzzle piece changes. And then all of the other pieces around it, which are your friends, your family, your community, your job, they have one of two choices. They can either shift their shape in order to fit this new version of you, or it's time to find a different puzzle that fits
Yeah.
your new shape a little better, which is also scary. Like it's when you step into a new version of yourself and of your life, there's so much possibility, but there is also like a little bit of grief because generally speaking, that means you're leaving something or someone behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely. I think it's important to be really vulnerable. That's where vulnerability comes in because we don't have to know all the answers to every single question. I mean, that was one of the struggles I had with the move was, my family would fire off all these questions and I had just made the decision like literally 2 days ago. And I was like summoning the courage to tell them I was moving and bing, bang, boom, all these questions came at me. And I'm like, I have no idea. And then I went home and I'm like, oh my gosh, did I make the biggest mistake of my life? And it's important to realize that we are human, that there's no set path for any one of us. It's just how much blocking and tackling do we want to do on our own versus reaching out to people who can help us, guide us, mentor us, and not losing that hope of what you really want because there's a reason why it keeps creeping up in your mind. There's a reason why it doesn't go away. And it's okay to put to rest that version of yourself that maybe wasn't the best version of yourself. You're still taking parts of that person with you, the best parts of that individual going forward, but to not get so discouraged that you start questioning every single decision you make because that can lead you to a path where you never make a decision or you need all of these approvals and permissions. And we just say, well, do whatever the hell you want. Because of course, we're not looking for people to be completely irresponsible and do cruel things. But within the purview of changing your life, there's a lot of options out there. And there's so much information as well. It can be overwhelming, but take it one step at a time.
You are talking about the what if spiral, of which I am very, very familiar when you're
Me
making a
too.
major change and your brain, that tricky brain just starts going down the rabbit hole of, well, what if this happens? Or what if this doesn't work out? Or go on down until, for me, I always end up just like destitute and alone and like everything in my life has crumbled around me. That's where my brain likes to go. But you're right. And I think too that like part of it, this is just my opinion, but I think that part of it is a little bit cultural. I think in the US, we are really sold a linear version of what life is supposed to look like and what success is supposed to look like. You're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to get married, you're supposed to have a baby, you're supposed to build your career, like all of these things in this order. And when you step off of that path and you do something like you take a hard left and you step off of that path, it can feel really scary and overwhelming. But as someone who has not had a linear path, who has had like basically like a roller coaster path with lots of different loops, I completely agree with you that like we really can do a lot of the things that we want to do. We just have to acknowledge the choice and start taking steps towards whatever that thing is. And then it kind of evolves along the way. You figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's so there's a couple things I want to add. One is that what if spiral. I think the older I get, the more I'm trying to not even play that game, right? Just don't even get involved with it. And then, but also don't hide it, but acknowledge it. So, Kelly, I'm going to use the example last week where Kelly had a medical issue. That makes it sound way, way harsher than it is. But she was like, oh my God, Keri, I looked up, maybe I'm going to be paralyzed. And it was talk about that what if scenario where you're like, my leg is falling asleep a lot. Oh my God, I'm paralyzed. And so we joked about it. I'm like, well, Kelly, if this is your last day on earth, I really appreciate you. I really love you. And like, so there was just something about just acknowledge that like we do it and then just go, okay, we acknowledge it. Thank you. What if scenario? Bye bye. You served me and I'm not going to pay attention to you now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something about this. I've just been, as of late, especially, all the articles on what if this or what if that. And there has to be this better balance of, yes, I'd like to do some scenario planning for our business. But at the same time, I don't want to spend 15 hours a day saying to Kelly, well, what if this happens? And then what if? And it is a really dangerous place to be in all the time. And so being vulnerable to say, I'm going in that spiral, Kelly, help me. And we say, you know what, let's play the game for 15 minutes. Let's play the what if.
Mm-hmm.
And we always end up, like you said, destitute, alone, dead. And then you realize, okay, when does that happen? Has it ever happened? No. So let's take that risk and let's do something.
I love that.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I've learned this from Keri too and others that, well, what if it does happen? Then we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know. We can't predict the future. And I've done this so much, like with the thing with my leg. I traveled a lot. It turned out that I wore a compression sock that was actually below my knee, needed to be above my knee. I'm sure nobody cares. But you go to that place of, oh my God, there's something wrong. There's a lump. It feels tender. Oh my God. But so what? We take it one step at a time. We call a doctor. We reach out to our colleague. We run down the list of things that could go wrong. And either we remove them because it's probably not going to happen. Or if we see it as being a likely option, then we say, well, who are the people I might need to reach out to in case this does go south?
Exactly.
So you can kind of not ignore the feeling, but you're not necessarily giving so much credence to it that you're spending time and your energy on the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You don't have to be beholden to it. I
Right.
think that's what, like, as you were saying it, Kelly, we just don't have to let it control every single thing. Because you're right. What if it does happen? So, you know what? What if Kelly and I lose all our clients tomorrow? Okay. Then we'll have to deal with it tomorrow. But we don't have to give it 15 hours of drama and hand wringing and clutching of the pearls today.
You love podcasts, and so do I. I am always on the hunt for new podcasts, and I've got some good news for you. I have found a podcast that you are going to love. It's called Blue Sky, and it's hosted by Bill Burke. Each week, Bill chats with inspiring people who are tackling the world's toughest challenges with a fresh dose of hope and optimism. Created by the Optimism Institute, Blue Sky is here to balance out all of the doom and gloom we see in the media by offering a positive, forward-thinking view of the future. From climate change to AI, homelessness to immigration, Bill and his guests cover it all, bringing in diverse perspectives that leave you feeling inspired and uplifted. Every episode reminds you that no matter how cloudy things seem, there's always a blue sky above. It's all about shifting your perspective and finding hope in even the hardest conversations. So, if you're ready for a podcast that leaves you feeling good about where we're headed, check out Blue Sky on any major podcast platform. It's the perfect way to clear the clouds and embrace a brighter future. And really, what's better than that?
Well, and you speak to a place where I think a lot of people get stuck. For sure, myself, I'm working on it. But like, that's this idea of overthinking. And like, there's something very seductive about going down that what if spiral. It's almost like your brain is like giving you confirmation that you're being responsible. Like, oh, well, look
Yes.
at you thinking of all the scenarios and planning for it. And you can get really caught up in that. But I
Yeah.
really love your approach of like acknowledging it, adding a little bit of levity. Even it sounds like giving yourself time to go down that spiral and then be like, okay, we're done. Another one I do is that I like challenge those thoughts. So for every what if that I go down the rabbit hole of like, what if this bad thing happens? Then I will make my brain say, well, what if this opposite and equally good thing happens? And almost like
Yes.
neutralizing the spiral. Like, okay, if this is what you want to do right now, if you want to go down this what if spiral, we are also what ifing all of the incredible, amazing,
Right.
successful, wonderful things that could happen. And I find that helpful when I feel stuck in my thoughts as well.
It's super helpful to do what if the good, because we don't do that as often. We always do what if the bad. And you are right. It's very seductive to constantly go, uh oh. And it's where we're being intellectual and we're thinking through it and thought through all your plans. That's what a smart person does. Well, you know what? A smart person also balances their energy and makes sure that they are taking appropriate risks and also being calculated about it and taking care of themselves and pushing themselves and growing and evolving. So, but yeah, it is very seductive. I just think of like some dinner parties I've been at. And first of all, that sounds like I go to a lot of dinner parties. This is not. But I just think of like hanging out at like the Jack in the Box or something. And all you do is have what if scenarios. Like your entire conversation has just been like, well, what if this would happen? Well, what if really? We just spent 3 hours talking about what if crud. Yeah,
Yeah.
we could have been talking about, I don't know, what's your porn name? That sounds more fun.
What is it like the street you grew up on and the
And your
name of your
dog.
first pet
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
something?
See? That's way more fun. I'm sorry. That like brings more joy than going, oh God, what's gonna happen when Kelly moves? Oh no. Oh God. So
Well,
yeah.
and that's also a really important thing when you're feeling stuck, whether you're feeling stuck in this overthinking or just stuck in general, like, I don't know what I want to do with my life or I'm not into this thing that I'm doing. Sometimes a little levity can make a huge difference. Just being
Oh
able to
yeah.
laugh a little bit and like recognize the humanness of what you're experiencing and like not take yourself so seriously. Obviously there are situations that feel really serious and maybe like levity isn't totally appropriate, but in many situations where you're feeling stuck, being able to crack a joke or kind of look at yourself and be like, "Oh, you're doing that thing again. How funny of you." Can really make a big difference in like shaking you out of that stress response that goes along with feeling stuck.
Yeah. I mean, humor really helps with the creativity as well. Because if you're feeling stuck, you often have to come up with new ideas, right? If I'm stuck in this job, if I'm stuck in this marriage, if I'm stuck in this relationship, if I am constantly beholden to all the negative thoughts, then the creativity, the possibility are also being deadened, right? They're being covered with this like negative blanket. Humor brings out some creativity. If you are more relaxed, you can start and having kind of a good time, you can start thinking of some creative ideas. Now, half of them could be like, that's not going to work, but you at least came up with half that might work. And so that's why just that relaxation and giving yourself, like Kelly was saying, that vulnerability and that space to think a bit and not have such negative thoughts will really be helpful too in thinking about how could I make a move? Because you do have to have some creative thoughts on that. You can't just go, I don't know what to do at all.
Well, when you're stuck, by definition, old ideas and practices and behaviors that you were doing is no longer working for you.
Right.
That's why you're stuck. And so, in order to get to a new place, you need to do new things, and that requires new ideas. So, yes, like tapping into your creativity, so important.
Well, and you mentioned overthinking, which is, I think, probably my middle name if I had could insert an adjective.
Same.
I might have had a name tag.
You did.
My name is Kelly and I'm overthinking this. I
Yes.
still have it
I
on my
was like,
desk.
Do you still have
God.
that name tag?
I do.
I remember that name tag.
Oh, that's so funny.
Hello, my name is I overthink or something like, right?
Yeah. Kelly. And we had to write down like one trait about ourselves. And of course I was overthinking. And Keri's like, don't overthink it. It's just a simple thing. I'm overthinking this. It was hilarious. But like knowing yourself well enough to know what kind of rabbit holes you could go down. Same thing goes with if you're not an overly resilient person, because I think sometimes those go hand in hand. If you overthink and you had an experience where when you made a life change or you made a decision, you're like, well, I'm never going to do that again. And you use that as a reason not to do something. That isn't necessarily the right path to go down either, because that's what happened that moment in time in that situation at that given time. So we can't use like a blanket statement for how change is going to look for the rest of your life. You take it as it comes. You take the knowledge and the wisdom you have along with the knowledge and wisdom of others. And I'm not a great brainstormer. If I do an hour of it, I feel like I've worked a 12-hour day, but Keri is, and she is great when it coming up with ideas. So even if you don't know what that next step looks like, reach out to someone who is super creative or has that like, well, let's think about the possibilities and just looks at it as just a fun activity as opposed to a death sentence in terms of like, oh my God, I have to come up with the right list at the right time tomorrow. So
I'm going to share a really fun tool. I've actually written multiple articles about this. So, speaking to your point of how, like, there can be pressure, right? With like brainstorming these ideas and like being like, I have to figure out a way to get unstuck and I need the right idea at the right time. And like, it can make your brain feel like it's going to explode. There's a concept from James Altucher. He is a writer and I believe a podcaster, but it's called the bad idea brainstorm. And like essentially, it's an exercise where you set a timer and try to come up with as many terrible ideas that will not work for sure as you can in a certain period of time. And like the idea behind it is that coming up with bad ideas removes the pressure to find a good idea, right? So like you get into that flow state where you're being creative and you're like trying to think of like, what's the worst idea I can think of? And it helps you tap into that creativity. And then often as you're brainstorming the bad ideas, good ideas just kind of find their way in because you remove the pressure for your brain to come up with the right idea. You're like, oh no, I'm just looking for the wrong ideas. And then ironically, the right idea often emerges from spending time trying to think of the wrong ideas.
Well, and the fear, I would imagine that comes with that too.
I was just going to say, when you think, Kelly, sometimes some of our ideas start with, Deanna, when you said that, some of our ideas start with, we say just stupid stuff like, oh, we should market that to this type of group or something. And it's just being dumb. And then like 5 ideas later, we're like, actually, if we just twist it a little bit and tweak, so I think sometimes I can't give a specific example because I don't remember details at all. Kelly knows this. But I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm so glad we were being so like silly. Right. And then from that silliness actually came an idea to do something that would really work. So I love that. The bad idea brainstorm. That's a great idea.
Yeah. It sounds like we're actually doing a lot of the same things, like the things that you're talking about and then the things I'm talking about. It feels like there's a lot of overlap, which is really cool.
Yes.
I would love to talk about your podcast. So, you both, your business partners, your besties, you created this podcast together. You interview some like truly amazing guests and talk about all sorts of different things. I recently listened to your episode with Celeste Headley, who I just absolutely adore. Oh my gosh, she's fantastic. And so I'm curious, through this process of getting to talk to so many interesting and successful and driven and open people, what have you learned about this experience of feeling stuck?
I think for me, one of the things that comes through in all our guests is the amount of BS we place on ourselves. And I think I should do this. And I think I should work super hard, Celeste. I think I should be a lawyer. I think I should be this. Like that shoulding is so intense that Kelly knows this. I try to remove that word.
Mhm.
I mean, I see that anytime it even starts to come out of my mouth, I'm like, nope, that should does not come out. That shoulding on yourself is really extremely detrimental. That's why I think our guests kind of realized that that's what's happening through a myriad of either breaking down, health issues. It's not like they just woke up on a nice day and said, you know what, I think I'm shooting myself. No, it was I had a health crisis, I had addiction, something that really broke them, or I couldn't do this work anymore. I was exhausted. And then they realized that. And so for me, I just love that they share those stories of when they broke through that. But that's what it kind of our podcast means to me, those lessons.
It's also, for me, the intense bravery that it takes to make a change, even if it's something that seems innocuous at the time. When you look at the trajectory of your life, as our guests have talked about, it has completely changed their life to the point where they never even saw the possibilities that they were able to attain during that moment in time. And some of it was deeply personal. Some of them are as a result of external factors. We had Colin Jones, Olympic swimmer, who, in a near drowning accident, his mother had the foresight to say, we're going to put you in swimming lessons. We're not going to allow this experience to taint your love of the water or passion for the water that you might have one day. And he turned in to be an Olympic gold medalist. So Colin Jones was someone who just I always think about, because there were external factors that had created that situation, and then the racial implications of that being that he is a Black man, of it being in largely white community, and then having to deal with all of that. Again, he had to go through so many things to come out the other side, and now he's giving it back tenfold by investing in these swimming pool services that allow for people to, and children in particular, become the best version of themselves through the love of swimming. So when you see people talk about those stories, they are deeply emotional, they're deeply satisfying, but there's also this humility that comes with knowing that I did a really tough thing that I thought was even tougher when I started, but look at where it propelled me to be today.
It's very hopeful.
Humans are so resilient. I think when we are like in our lowest moments, when we're feeling really stuck, when we can't see the possibilities, I can speak for myself. There have been moments in my life where everything just felt so dark and small that I couldn't even imagine what it might be like to navigate through what I was experiencing and come out on the other side. But now that I have like a little bit of data, I just turned 40 a couple of weeks ago. So I've got like a little bit of like a sample size. And when I look back, every time I have found a way through, and I have
Mm-hmm.
found my way through the challenge, through the pain, through the darkness, to find the choices and options and possibilities on the other side. And I think that that resilience, not that it's easy to do that work, but like at our core, I really do feel humans like we are resilient animals, and we have a really profound ability to bounce back and get through those hard times and find joy and light and happiness and fulfillment following those more challenging times.
Yeah. And I think that's why these podcasts that we do are so important, because listening to someone and being able to say, oh, that was me a little bit, or that is me right now. Wait, they did it? Oh, that's why Kelly and I don't want people to think that it's been easy, right? In our
Mm-hmm.
book, the first chapter talks about it wasn't easy for us. So don't take it as, oh, they're just naturally like, screw the patriarchy or screw. No, it wasn't easy for us. And that's why we want to inspire others to do the same thing, just like you're doing with your podcast, right? Just to help people. Because if you can see yourself in just one of the stories, then you go, oh, they did it. I think I can do it too. And storytelling is the most powerful, powerful way to get messages across. That's why our podcast is not just 15 stats read to you. Did you know that we don't read stats because no one would listen to it? So you have to tell the stories.
I agree that storytelling is the most powerful tool that we have for healing. And thank you for being brave enough to share your own stories and for creating a platform for other people to share theirs. It can be a vulnerable experience. Like, I have shared about things publicly that are embarrassing and don't make me look particularly good. And there's a part of me that would like to just shut those things in the past and be like, oh, well, that's not us anymore. But if you can share that story and have one person have that experience
Yes.
where they see their struggles mirrored in your story and they see that you have gotten to the other side, the hope that it can deliver makes it completely worth it. And I have had the experience of being on the other side, of being in such a challenging, dark place and not being able to see a light at the end of the tunnel, and then hearing someone else's story and hearing someone else say, I was there and now I'm here, give me the hope that I needed to take those steps forward.
Hmm.
Someone who read the book recently wrote to me and said, wow, I didn't realize that you went through all of that. And they said, "You've done a good job." I was like, "Oh my god, thanks." But she's not going through I think she's going through some tough times right now. And so it was inspirational for her, like, "Oh, okay, here's someone I kind of admire." And again, we all do this. It must have been relatively easy for them, right? We do it because it seems easy now. So like, they probably didn't go through a lot. And then to realize that we did, oh, okay. And so it inspired her to think that she can get through what she's going through. Super powerful.
In the age of social media, where so much of what we see is like curated
Yes.
highlight reels of other people's life, where it is so easy to compare not only the challenges, but like kind of the mundane details of our day to day life. Like, if you're scrolling social media, it can feel everyone is like on vacation and like rock climbing and in the best relationship and just like having the time of their life compared to the daily struggles and challenges and mundane details of your own life. So there is something within that culture that feels even more important to be vulnerable and to say, almost to like pull back the curtain and be like, no, this is not real life.
Yeah,
I have struggles, you have struggles, we all have struggles. Let's talk about them so we don't have to struggle alone.
exactly.
It's what happens when we coach leaders, develop connections with their employees.
Yes.
Employees often hold managers to a really high threshold, like, oh, they've never had to deal with this before. They've never had these moments of doubt or whatever. And when managers reveal parts of themselves that aren't the greatest, that where they made a mistake, where something that they thought was going to go well didn't go well, they tanked a presentation, it creates a stronger connection to from that manager to the employee in ways that, because that is the greatest connection you have at work, is the connection to manager. And so you develop a raving fan by being yourself, by showing the good, the bad, and the ugly, and recognizing that, look, it wasn't a cakewalk to get to where I am today. I had to make a lot of mistakes. I burned a bridge, whatever it was. But look at me and look at what the possibilities are for you if you trust yourself. And I'm here for you.
Yeah. And oftentimes, the things that we think will push people away are actually the things that bring people in closer. It is the mess ups and the challenges and the insecurities, and like, oh, I don't know if I want to show this part. That's the stuff that people connect to. That's the stuff like no one wants this like perfect cookie cutter version of you. They want the real you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, again, with stories and like movies and shows, and we like flawed characters. Even we really like a flawed character. It's better. I'm watching a show right now and the character's too perfect all the time, and I find myself not engaging. So I'm like, well, this is like ridiculous. There's not one thing ever that goes wrong. Everything always works out perfectly. And I get quite bored. And because I think most of us want some kind of flaw, they want to figure out because it makes you human and vulnerable. So it's really important and to share those. And Kelly and I don't know, maybe I overshare sometimes with certain things, but just it makes people actually like you,
Hmm.
right? They want to bond with you, or they feel like what's so interesting is when Kelly and I do a lot of interviews with people, and just for our, not the podcast, but just for work and to try to figure out like what's going on in an organization. And we just be ourselves. Like we don't put on a facade, or we share things like, oh, that's hard for us too. And it's amazing how much people share with us. And if we came across as like, well, hello, you're now talking to Dr. Keri and Kelly. Now, what do you think about this? They won't give us much. But if we kind of come in as our goofy sometimes selves of like, oh my God, I spilled coffee all over and now the dog's barking and I stepped in pee, which is usually a normal day at my house, right? Then all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, so she's looking good in the Zoom, but the whole, it's like burning behind her. Cool. I think I can share some stuff with her. So people just want to be around people who are vulnerable and kind of messy. Not too messy. Let's be real clear. There's a fine line. But we want flaws. We want vulnerability.
We want humanity. Like we want someone to be real.
Yes.
I love that. So, obviously, from your personal experience, from the clients that you work with, from your podcasts and the many, many conversations that you have had, you have a lot of experience with this topic of stuckness. So, for anyone listening who is feeling like they are going through a season of stuck, what do you feel like have been the most helpful tools or strategies or tips for you when you have felt stuck that you would share with that person who's experiencing stuckness today?
For me, I sit with the feeling of why am I feeling this way? What is it that's uncomfortable? What is it that I want to change? And then I think about, is this something that I really want to make a change? Or is it just a moment in time? Does it require like all the work that would maybe go into like changing my life or changing some part of my life? So I think about that. And if it's something that I do want to change, then I think about what might be the first couple action steps. And that's all I define. I don't try and come up with a whole plan because I'm a pretty structured person. So that is my love language, is trying to come up with the total plan, all the details but I realize that that is a completely, that I will fail miserably if I try to do that. So just, what is the thing that makes me uncomfortable? Do I want to change it? And if so, what is that next first step?
Yeah.
Yeah, A to Z can feel overwhelming. Sometimes it's just about focusing on A to B or even A to A and a half.
Exactly.
Like, how
100%.
small can you break it down? How manageable can you make it?
Mm-hmm.
I love
Exactly.
that.
And I think too, everything that Kelly said and the work that needs to be done on self-awareness and being comfortable with yourself, I think is the most important, because if you don't know why you're doing it, to Kelly's point, you might go down different paths that maybe aren't right for you because you're not getting real with yourself. And I think once you do that, then it is all about taking some little actions. Like just take it. We had a podcast guest one time who just said, just take any action, even if it's a messy action. It doesn't, just take some action. Just tweak a little something, hack a little something here, try a little something, and go talk to someone. Go find your person who will be your cheerleader and be a support to you. At the same time, they'll also tell you, well, that one, I'm not sure. Like maybe you should think a little bit more about that one. You need a cheerleader, but you also need someone with some good advice at times too, to say, that might not be let's talk about that one real quick. So you need this trusted advisor. Like Kelly said, your board of directors is really important.
I love that. Amazing. Kelly, Keri, this conversation has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show. If anyone listening wants to learn more about you, about your company, about the podcast, how do they do that and connect with you?
Well, you can go to abbraccigroup.com and we have information about our podcast. We have information about our book. Contact us. All of our information is there. The book is called Whatever the Hell You Want. Keri also wrote another book. I forgot to mention that. Sorry, Keri. The Way of the HR Warrior.
How dare you?
So for those people who are in the HR profession and feeling a little stuck themselves,
Uh-huh.
because it can be very easy to get stuck in HR. So do not spend a lot of time there. There is a great resource and a great, really uplifting book that Keri wrote called The Way of the HR Warrior. So Thank you, Deanna, for everything that you're doing too and helping people
Yes.
remove themselves from being stuck and not staying there for too long.
That's the goal.
Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Thank you for putting out the good vibes and sharing your story and just trying to help. That's all we can do is put out our light and try to help others when we can.
And we're right back at you. And if it's okay with you, now that we are kind of wrapping up the interview, there is one question that we ask all of our guests here at Season of Stuck. So if it's okay with both of you, I just have one more question.
Of course.
Okay. So picturing the ideal future version of yourself, like the you that you are working every day to one day grow into. If she could travel back in time and talk to the today version of you, what advice do you think that she would give you on how to navigate stuckness at this stage of your life?
My first sentence that comes to my head is calm the fuck down.
That is sage advice. I will also
Sorry,
take that.
it is like I guarantee in 20 years that I will be still trying to calm the fuck down. And like, not everything has to be done immediately. It is okay. Appreciate the journey. That will be my work in progress until I leave this earth. But that is what I would tell myself, calm the fuck down.
Excellent advice. What about you, Kelly?
I think for me, it's just be nice to yourself, be kind to yourself. I'm so hard on myself at times that it's like, do you really like me? I mean, it's cruel and unfair that if I was watching someone else do to me what I do to me, I would be very upset.
Yes.
And so we got into this business for a very specific reason of helping people. And it wasn't to do the kinds of things I do to myself on a daily basis. So be nice to yourself and recognize that you have it within you and around you to do the things that are tough and hard.
Beautiful advice from both of you. Thank you, future Kelly and future Dr. Keri. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Deanna.
Thank you, Deanna.
That's it for today. A huge thank you to our guest for their incredible insights, and a huge thank you to you, our listeners. We know that there are so many podcasts out there to choose from, and we are just so grateful that you chose ours. If you enjoyed today's episode, consider recommending the podcast to a friend or family member that you think would enjoy it. And to make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever it is you get your podcasts. And while you're there, if you loved the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review. It plays such a huge part in getting this podcast out to a wider audience and ultimately supporting more people on their journey from stuck to unstuck. And to keep in touch and access even more stuck-related content, follow us on Instagram at Season of Stuck and visit our website, seasonofstuck.com, where you can sign up to get episodes delivered directly to your inbox. Thank you again for being here. It is so, so appreciated. Until next time, I'm Deanna deBara, and you're listening to Season of Stuck.